Good evening. This is Maestro with the Dawn of War 2 Retribution Elite Modcast. Today, we have a Best-of-5 Faction War series between the Tyranids and the Ordo Malleus. Our first player is going to be the Tenso, playing as the Lictor Alpha, infiltrating melee assassin commander with displacement. Lindonin right here, or rather in the tunnel, will be playing as the Ravener Alpha. Global mobility commander gets those tunnels, and also starts out in range but can be capable in melee as well. Razihel 777 will be rounding out the Tyranid roster with a second Lictor Alpha, and let's take a look at their opponents. We're going to have a bunch of Ordo Malleus. We're going to start off with Sergeant Smith playing as the Eversor Assassin. Kind of a bruiser melee commander, can increase his damage at the expense of his own health, also explodes on death. Inekura is going to be here as the Demon Hunter, and this is still the old patch where the Demon Hunter is considered quite weak, considered a control and spellcasting commander for the Ordo Malleus. We'll see what value he can get out of him. And then finally, ... will be bringing up the rear, playing as the Brother Captain. Big, tanky melee hero that cannot be knocked down or suppressed, can buff defense and speed with We Are the Hammer. So, just to kind of keep you guys apprised of what's going on here, it's going to be a lot of faction wars, and there are definitely people who want faction wars, but, you know, definitely there are some people who want a little bit more variety. Some people have been asking for 1v1s lately, even though 1v1s definitely don't get as many views. It is going to be a little bit faction war heavy for the next 4 or 5 uploads, because I want to finish out the faction wars, which are on an old patch. After that, though, I'm going to shift my focus to the Elite League, so it's actually going to shift to being very 1v1 focused. The Elite League is a 1v1 competition, and while I'm talking about the Elite League, we have a squad of Hormagaunts nearly getting wiped. So yeah, focus will shift to the Elite League. It'll be pretty 1v1 heavy at that point. And let's take a look at what else is going on here in this actual game, as we do see an upgrade already on the Eversor Assassin, and this is one that in this patch, which again, I am now 1 patch behind, trying to make sure that I still cover the faction wars, the Executioner Pistol is definitely seen as kind of strong because of that Neurotoxin ability, single target ability, where it does 120 piercing damage over time. And you also just get more range damage out of your Eversor Assassin, not altogether dissimilar to how you might get a ranged weapon on the War Boss, for example, or the Chaos Lord. So a little bit of a lull in the action after our initial engagements while I droned on about things that, you know, had nothing to do with this particular game itself. Hormagaunts will be approaching. Looks like we have a melee-heavy build out of many of our Tyranid players. Pretty interesting to see that. Typically, triple Hormagaunt is common in 1v1 games, but in team games, you often see more of double Termagant, because the nature of team games is just a lot more ranged focus, but her range units apparently not doing so well here. One of them going to be getting wiped by the Hormagaunt, so the melee prowess actually proving to be superior in this particular engagement. Now, there has been a time, a little bit more so in the past, and I feel like a little less so these days, when Ordo Malleus has kind of struggled with melee. All right, big engagement happening right here. Oh no, the Purgation getting engaged on pretty hard here by this melee blob out of the Tenso. And Tenso is still going in this engagement. Some of his units have been forced off. The Hormagaunts at about half their health, but still doing well here. So part of the issue that Ordo Malleus kind of has, and it's something that is, you know, kind of reflective of how they were like a late race added into the game by, you know, non-professional developers, is that every other race in this game has some kind of fairly reliable point-and-click control ability on one of their baseline squads. One of the requisition-only squads generally comes as an upgrade, but it's still just true in that, again, for all the other races, they have some kind of point-and-click control ability on one of the baseline squads. For Space Marines, you have Shotgun Scouts. For Tyranids, you have Termagants with Crippling Poison. And Ordo Malleus does not quite have that. You theoretically can get some melee control out of the Stormtroopers with grenade launchers, but that's skill shot based, so it's inherently less reliable. For Ordo Malleus, that kind of control comes out of the Purgation, and Purgation are a tier 1.5 squad, and it takes a little bit more time to get them out on the field. And even in this case, in these engagements, it feels like the Purge by Fire, the control ability out of the Ordo Malleus, feels like it's proven to be a little bit ineffective, or it's maybe just coming out a little bit too late. Oh my god, Strike Squad getting absolutely nommed on in retreat. I think the squad will make it out alive, but losing 2 models is just incredibly expensive. These days, I believe it is 75 requisition per model, which is equivalent to attack squad. But generally, you are a little bit more aggressive with your Strike Squad because they are a little bit more melee-oriented than Tax. And Tax, obviously, usually going to hang bit a little bit even more, even though they do also have some melee prowess of their own. Meanwhile, though, Barb Strangler Warrior model does get picked off. Synapse Backlash did go up, but I don't think actually hit anybody, and I think this is going to be an engagement where Lindonin will have to back off, as he is now losing to ... Triple cap, though, for our Ordo Malleus players. Many of the engagements feel like they've been going in favor of our Tyranid players, but it is the Ordo Malleus who are able to convert this into victory point control. Triple cap in their favor. Won't be for too much longer, as both the contested as well as the natural victory point for the Tyranid team are going to be retaken. Or are they? Does look like the Hormigons backed off just a little bit with the approach of the Purgation. Purgation trying to approach again. They see the Warriors, but they don't even see the Lictor Alpha. Lictor Alpha, however, does not have the energy for a Flesh Hook, which does kind of neutralize a lot of his... Wow, and he actually doesn't last that long at all. So a little bit too much time spent with the infiltration. Didn't have a Flesh Hook ready. Also didn't have enough health and support to withstand the range damage that was coming in from Sergeant Smith. A few upgrades also coming in from our players. We're going to see Toxin Miasma out of the Tenso. Any units that he strikes in melee have their speed and their damage will be reduced. Also just quite powerful as a weapon. Meanwhile, that was the Rift Tear from the Demon Hunter. However, it was not quite successful, as the Demon Hunter is now dead on the floor. Hormigon's nearly taken out. It does look like it either is some kind of... most likely that was a frag grenade out of the Stormtroopers, but man, the Tyranids getting really, really aggressive in melee. Sometimes it's working out for them, and in some cases, actually... Oh, wow! Full retreat there! It feels like there were still so many units there for the Ordo Malleus, but I think you realize that in the long run, this is mostly range units. The only pseudo-ish melee unit is this Strike Squad right here, and even that, definitely going to lose to the Lictor Alpha. Lictor Alpha from Razihel with some upgrades of its own. Also Toxin Miasma. See, the Toxin Miasma on both is interesting. If both of these players are getting it, it does kind of, you know, make me believe that perhaps that is a strong war gear in this particular matchup. Or maybe it's just strong generally. I feel like most of the Lictor Alpha's war gears are actually quite strong, at least his weapon war gears. Damage is quite good. Again, 65 melee DPS, but also you get the damage over time, the piercing damage over time, so it's deceptively quite strong, and maybe it's not even really trying to deceive you about it. Barb Strangler shots going on the double Purgation right here. They're kind of being grouped up, so they're both getting hit. And we're also going to see some Tier 2 unit purchases coming out of several of our players. Tyrant Guard has hit the field for the Tenso. Super heavy infantry armor. Vehicle-ish. Technically a monstrous creature in the game. Vindicare Assassin caught way out. He'll be super lucky to get out of this one alive. I think he will. That's super lucky, but he was still caught way out. Like, Vindicare Assassin... You know, he's a sniper, he's got long range, should never have any business being that close to all of these Tyranid units, and super lucky not to lose him there. Also, did not lose him there because he did have the extended operations, increasing the health as well as the health regeneration of the Vindicare Assassin. I personally, like, if I were to play Ordo Malleus, I would definitely, like, auto-buy this war gear, mostly just out of insecurity or upgrade, just because it's going to increase the chances of your Vindicare Assassin not dying from getting into melee once. A few generators taken down there. One still standing as the Tyranids are approaching. Nice knockback by the Raveners as part of their initiation, catching the Purgation of all units. But the Brother Captain gets a nice special in here, which could keep them in this engagement, or rather the Ordo Malleus in this engagement just a little bit longer. But as I say that, call down is shown, and that call down does scare ... off the field. The Vindicare Assassin still taking shots where it looks like another fight is going on right here. Looks like Bio Meltdown has been activated from the Everstar Assassin. That is something that causes him to do damage over time in an area. Global ability for the Everstar Assassin. Considered a little too powerful in this particular patch, but probably got some changes in the actual current patch. Sin Skin Body Love also upgraded right here. Increases the duration of Psycon. Meanwhile, our Purgation Squad are going to be purging that node as, wow. Tyrant Guard also caught by himself right here. More Tier 2 purchases coming out on the field as we do see the Grey Knight Dreadnought coming out on the field. No upgrade on this one just yet. We'll see what the upgrade is. Now, I personally love the Plasma Cannon. Oh, that is going to be the Demon Hunter not going down. He actually just got knocked over. Probably, I think, the Tyrant Guard attempted to charge out and knocked over the Demon Hunter. So, yeah, Grey Knight Dreadnought. I personally love the Plasma Cannon with the Hurricane Bolter, but as was pointed out to me in another faction war, that is actually completely incapable of doing melee, which makes it kind of unique in that regard, in that it can be kind of tied up, but it is incapable of doing any melee at all. And with the melee-heavy builds out of our Tyranid players, I think it might actually be better not to go for the Plasma Cannon. The Plasma Cannon can certainly get some nice fat shots that might do some, nice things. But again, once it gets tied up in melee, it would become completely ineffective. So right now we see it keeping the Incinerator. It might even be worth its while. If it's going to be engagements like this, a melee Dreadnought might be a little bit better. Meanwhile, I believe that was Retribution out of the Demon Hunter. Doing that area of effect knockback comes from the Force Rod, this weapon upgrade for the Demon Hunter. Yeah, silences, damages, and knocks back. Silences meaning prevents them from using their abilities for, a set amount of time. We're going to see some upgrades on the Stormtroopers' plasma guns. I like the plasma guns. Plasma guns, in part meant to put more pressure on the warriors, try to proc those synapse backlashes, although... I mean, it's 2 plasma guns per squad at 12.36 plasma DPS. That's actually on par with a Imperial Guard squad with plasma guns. And as it turns out, Sergeant Smith actually going for the Plasma Cannon Dreadnought anyway. So, I mean, certainly this thing can do a lot of damage, but it needs to kind of be protected, because if it gets tied up in melee, it becomes quite a bit more ineffective. Didn't point out yet the Terminator Librarian out of Inekura. Haven't actually seen it do that much yet. But it's going to go in for melee right now. Certainly what is good about this Terminator Librarian, Sanctuary, very good melee counter, and he does a decent amount of damage with his weapon. Power melee too, I believe, so decent for also popping the warrior models. Lictor Alpha is in here. Fully upgraded out of Razihel. Also has the pheromones and the deadly jump. We're going to see that used right now, knocking over the Purgation Squad. Purgation Squad going to start taking damage, but the Lictor Alpha is also pretty far forward. I mean, he's so far forward. He is pushing ... into his base at the moment. And with the help of Inekura, Razihel will be pushed off. In fact, actually, Razihel is actually being tripled at the moment because this is the Dreadnought from Sergeant Smith. And it's still the Ordo Malleus who have the lead in victory points. Oh, we're hitting Tier 3 now, as we do see our first Carnifex out on the field. Gonna be a Barb Strangler Carnifex, and that does make sense in that it's gonna be very, very powerful against things like the Purgation Squads. Purgation Squads have also, up until now, been, I think mostly, if not entirely, been kept as Incinerator Purgations. This Carnifex is definitely going to force a few weapon changes out of the Purgation Squads that we have out on the field. Yeah, and so there's our first one. The Conversion Beamer coming out for Sergeant Smith. Tier 3 for Sergeant Smith. And Grey Knight Terminators coming out on the field for ... Purgation Squad trying to set up, but it's suppressed. And unfortunately, this is also one of those cases where if the positioning is correct, the Carnifex can actually kind of counter its counters, which is it can just pretty much infinitely suppress the Purgation while also doing some pretty nice burst damage to it with that Barb Strangler. So the Tyranids currently sending the Ordo Malleus into retreat. There is a nice use of Sanctuary, but the Terminator Librarian all by himself right there, so he just needs to retreat out of it, even though he basically knocked over the entire Tyranid army. Still some very heavy melee builds out of our Tyranid players. We have the Gene Stealers as well, the Denim Thieves. Shoutouts to Forest Radio. Haven't seen him in a while. Obviously, a player of the game, used to play a lot, and actually hasn't played that much recently, but made himself present in a few streams earlier this year, and he coined the wonderfully clever Denim Thieves term to describe the Gene Stealers. Lictor Alpha going down there, finding himself in melee with the Grey Knight Terminators. Reduced the damage of the Grey Knight Terminators, but proved not to be enough, with those Grey Knight Terminators just having overwhelming damage with their Force Halberds. So Tyranids do at least now have the double cap, but they've got a lot of victory points to make up. Infiltrated Lictor Alpha, though, also fully upgraded. This one with the adrenal glands to make him a bit tankier, as well as to make him a little bit more energy efficient. Able to keep up that infiltration quite a bit longer. Start it over again as well. And the Carnifex stomping around, looking for a target. And I think it's okay to start taking some shots here. It probably does not actually have sight of the rest of these Tyranids, or rather these Ordo Malleus infantry squads. But once it does, those shots are going to do great. I mean, look at that. That was full on suppression. Suppression did not last that long at all, though. Everstor Assassin going to be forced off the field. Made me wonder if he would be killed, and he will be killed. Flesh Hook from the Lictor Alpha does finish him off. I actually feel like we've seen surprisingly few Flesh Hooks in this game, you know, considering that is something that I've pointed out quite a bit in the past as being such a strong tool for the Lictor Alpha. I think it's just partly reflective of the style of play that we are seeing out of our Lictor Alpha players this game, that focus on the Toxin Miasma does show that they kind of want to be just in the fight a lot more. Pheromone Cloud shows that they want to be able to provide reinforcements, so with the infantry blobs out of both, and especially with Razihel with Deadly Jump. Deadly Jump is almost kind of like the opposite of Flesh Hook, you know, where instead of pushing the unit to you, you pull them, or rather, instead of... All right, I messed that one up. Let's try it again. Instead of pulling the unit to you, you jump toward them. That was surprisingly hard. Suppression goes out. Lasts a little bit longer this time on the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, but we will see a Barb Strangler Warrior Brood forced off. So we're now starting to see the march of the Carnifexes. No Swarm Lord just yet out of our players. Any of our Tyranid players, that is. Razihel, though, it's still a decent chance that he just goes for Carnifexes. And I do think it's an interesting kind of question. Oh, man. Razihel might have been caught out a little bit here. Sometimes it's an interesting question of, you know, for Tyranids, what do you go for in Tier 3? Are you going to go for Carnifex heavy builds? Do you actually wait to get the Swarm Lord? And the Swarm Lord has its place, and I like the Swarm Lord in many ways. There's certain things that are very nice about it. One thing in particular is its speed. Another thing is the fact that you can actually reinforce off of it. But I think it's generally more common that we see Carnifex heavy builds out of Tyranid players. The reason being, in my opinion, is that Carnifexes are cheaper. So you can have that presence of this Tier 3 super unit out on the field quicker than you would if you're waiting for the Swarm Lord. Because it's cheaper, and because you can also get more than one of them, it also means you can more quickly get two of these big things out on the field, which is just a whole lot more pressure, a whole lot more vehicle armor for your opponent to deal with. I mean, look at that. Look at the disruption there coming from this Thornback Carnifex, making it hard for the Ordo Malleus to do anything right now. Big special attack, though, from the Brother Captain once again will delay the Tyranids and give some space to the Terminators to get out of there with all three models. I feel like the Paladins can kind of turn on this. All right, they probably don't want to deal with the Carnifex, but I feel like if they turned around... Oh, no, they don't want to deal with the Lictor Alpha and the Warriors. It's still possible they could turn around and just quickly pop one of the Warrior models with their rather overwhelming DPS. But they won't do it. They want to just get out alive. Don't want to risk losing any models here, and they will get out with all three of them. So we are going to see a Silencer Purgation, definitely doing some anti-vehicle damage to the Carnifex. Silencer Purgation, nice for DPS and damage against all targets. However, against vehicles, you won't get that snare. Conversion Beamer was lending itself a snare against the Carnifex, and the Carnifex was actually nearly taken out. But the Lictor Alpha was able to pull off a Flesh Hook before it could finish it off, and there was a charge ready on this Carnifex to get it out of there alive before the Conversion Beamer could set up a second time. Victory points now actually very even, so Tyranid players... I'm actually hesitant to say coming back into this, because to me it actually feels like the Tyranid players have been doing quite well this entire game. And perhaps certainly in terms of how they've been fighting, to me, it actually feels like the Tyranids have been doing a little bit better. But the Ordo Malleus has just had the better end of the victory points. And perhaps it's just a little bit of an oversight from our Tyranid players in that regard, but now they're obviously making it up with, you know, just the repeated engagement wins. Neurothrop going to come out from the Tenso. While only a mere Zoanthrope out of Lindonin. Zoanthrope, a quite squishy single entity. Alright, and it's going to come down to a mid-fight. Ordo Malleus players, yeah, they don't have much time to make something happen, so the Terminators will just get on this right at the moment. That's going to be a Tyrannid formation, though, to try to break the Ordo Malleus lines. It's disruptive enough. It's normally, I've talked before how I personally feel, oh, the Vindicator Assassin is actually taken out. Didn't quite catch it there if it was the final Spire out of the Capillary Tower that took him out or just some follow-up damage from the range units. Either way, the Tyrannid formation there actually got pretty good value. Knocked over the Vindicator Assassin and actually knocked him over in a way that was pretty ideal for the Tyranids. Knocked them toward the Tyranid units and made it just life really, really tough. And not only made life tough, but it made life literally end for the Vindicator Assassin. Now, while this is happening, the Strike Squad are going to be getting knocked over by the Neurothrope using Cataclysm? I'm actually blanking out on that one. I know Paroxysm. I remember Paroxysm, and I'm just kind of blanking out on this one. That's Paroxysm, I can tell you right there. That's the percent damage over time in an area. Not sure. The Strike Squad are caught in that. They're right on the edge of it, so they were taking damage. All right, the Paladins here in quite a bit of trouble. So the Ordo Malleus managed to buy a little bit of time. They actually have a double cap, amazingly enough. But man, they're just getting run over right here. We see the Paladins just backing up. The double conversion beamers trying to put the damage in. Now we have a Swarmlord out of Razihel, so he actually chose to wait for it. That is going to be Holocaust out of the Grey Knight Terminators, levitating the Lictor Alpha. Don't know if it quite caught the Hormagaunts. I don't think it did. But no shots ready to go out on this Swarmlord. Again, we're going to see a Tier 3 Lictor out of Lindonin. Ordo Malleus can move back out here. They're going to have to make another play for the contested victory point. They are lucky to even have a second opportunity, I feel, as things are getting pretty tight at the moment. Inekura, where is he moving? He might be looking for a back cap with this Eversor Assassin. Needs to definitely avoid the Swarmlord. Won't last too long against him. So he's looking, yeah, looks like he's looking for a back cap to buy time, but the Swarmlord sees him. He's going to throw out the Neurotoxin on the Zoanthrope. That does threaten the Zoanthrope enough that the Zoanthrope is going to have to retreat. Inekura realizing that he is just going to have to back off here. This isn't even Inekura. This is Sergeant Smith. Totally potatoed out on that one. Inekura is right here. All right, it's time. It's now or never. I mean, technically they could wait a little bit longer. I guess if they really wanted to, they could wait until like Inekura gets his. Not, I was messing it up again. Sergeant Smith gets his Eversor Assassin back out on the field, but I don't think they're going to. Tyranids might even force the issue. I think it's worth their time to do it sooner rather than later, actually. Oh, but look at this. The movement and the anticipation from the Tyranids. And this is going to be completely unanswered at the moment because, for the most part, the Ordo Malleus is committed to the contested victory point. Oh, and the Brother Captain will be taken down by the Carnifex. I think we're getting pretty close to game here. Most likely in favor of the Tyranids. It's a double cap in their favor. Yeah, I think this is pretty much it, and it's going to be a Tyranid cap on this victory point too. Late Wargear switch out of the Lictor Alpha. We might see a Carnifex go down. Honestly, probably not even. Out of the range. Doesn't even matter. That is going to be game number 1, going in favor of our Tyranid players as these last victory points continue to tick down. That's it. Let's move on to game number 2. game number 2 will take place on Katrin Purification Plant, our other most played map these days in Elite Mon. Our first player going to be Revs, stepping in here for ... playing as the Brother Captain. Inekura will now be switching over from the Demon Hunter to the Brother Captain, and Sergeant Smith will continue to play as this invisible unit, the Eversor Assassin. Their opponents on the Tyranid side, Tenso, once again playing as Lictor Alpha. Razihel will be doing it as well. And finally, Lindonin going to be switching over this time to the Hive Tyrant. Tanky melee hero, one of the tankiest in the game, both with his baseline stats as well as with certain upgrades that he has. Cannot be knocked down or suppressed either. He's going to be taking some shots here from the Brother Captain Stormbolter, but the Brother Captain decides to move back and get some support. Wants the support of the Strike Squad range damage to help him, but here are the Hormagaunts coming in. Brother Captain switches targets. Now the Strike Squad are in melee. Strike Squad, for the moment, taking this fight, and they're going to have some support themselves in the form of the Stormtroopers. And the Strike Squad do manage to weather that storm, or rather, well, I guess they were not the ones weathering the storm, but they do manage to at least stay alive long enough to get that support. And now the Hive Tyrant is currently isolated as he continues to just chase after the Strike Squad, looking to see if he can take a model off of them. But he continues to be focused down by the Brother Captain as well as the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers. Yeah, after that special attack, there was a special attack there which is not going to track. He realized that he needs to get the Hive Tyrant out of here. He needs to start retreating it before he might actually risk losing the Hive Tyrant. That's a safe enough position for the Hive Tyrant. Another squad of Hormagaunts in here does get only partially knocked back by the Brother Captain, and they're focusing on the Stormtroopers, so the Strike Squad content to stay in this fight. Now, that was Revs kind of pushed back a bit into his base, but ultimately it is Lindonin who had to retreat his units out off the field. Eversor Assassin from Sergeant Smith. We're seeing a lot of these funny fights where it's just someone kind of kiting back. Mostly the Tyranids getting kited by the Ordo Malleus at this time, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the Tyranids, certainly in Tier 1 at least, have a lot more melee threat, and a lot of that also has to do with the builds that we're seeing out of our Tyranid players. Surprising Hormagaunt focus, at least surprising in the sense of what I generally normally see in team games, but it could be just in this particular matchup against the Ordo Malleus that actually is a good thing, even in a team game, to go such a melee-centric build for Tyranids. Although Tenso has an interesting one. He actually split it off with one Termagant and one Hormagaunt. That's actually not too common, unless he actually lost a squad that I just didn't see. As well as fairly early warriors out of our players, getting it as, instead of getting another power-free Tier 1 squad, going straight to that Tier 1.5. So yeah, this is kind of symptomatic of what I had said before in the last game. The baseline units for the Ordo Malleus, the Stormtroopers. Oh, and this is looking really dicey for these Stormtroopers. The baseline units for the Ordo Malleus, the Stormtroopers and the Strike Squad, they do not have some kind of reliable point-and-click control ability. Whereas, again, pretty much every other race in the game has some kind of reliable point-and-click control ability on one of their baseline power-free squads. I gave examples before. You know, you just even kind of keep going down the list of the examples. For Chaos, it's Heretics with Doomblast. For Orcs, it's Shootas with Aiming What's That. And we're seeing how this ends up being a little bit of a struggle for the Ordo Malleus. They're constantly being forced to move back because of the Tyranid melee threat. So it actually really surprises me that we don't see any Purgation squad yet. Sergeant Smith actually choosing to go for the Interceptors. Inekura going with the quad ISTs straight into Tier 2. I mean, that's definitely a fast tech attempt, because of course these ISTs, and of course to kind of round out the fast tech, he went for no upgrades at all, which really just indicates you're attempting a fast tech. Revs going for the double strike squad, attempting the double banishment shenanigans, something that, again, because this is the old patch, is something that is quite powerful against, in general, and against Tyranids. Definitely nerfed a bit in the current patch, which is not in this video. Now, part of the idea of the quad ISTs is you are looking to actually just go harder on that kiting strategy, because the ISTs, you can split them up. Actually, it works very well for kiting because you can really split them up. They do a fair amount of damage, but it still results in you having to move back a lot and concede a lot of ground. That is going to be some Chem Cloud grenades out of the Eversor Assassin. Chem Cloud grenades are grenades from the Eversor Assassin that have about 4 or 5 different effects. I always have to read them off whenever I see them, but actually we've got quite a big fight right here. Warriors getting into melee, knocking over the Strike Squad, while the Hive Tyrant looks to make his way over to the ISTs. It is a messy fight. ISTs also in the back here with some Raveners that perhaps have burrowed in, not buried in. And it's just retreats on both sides. Raveners being forced off, though. Raveners actually kind of struggling up against the Interceptors as well as the Eversor Assassin. And in the end, it's a one fight for the Ordo Malleus. There is Lictor Alpha here. He should be overwhelmed eventually, but he is actually just running away from them. Okay, looking to just try to infiltrate to see if he can get out of there and stay out on the field. Oh my, Inekura is going for the best new build. Going heavy on the ISTs early on into Rhinos. Rhinos are quite powerful for the Ordo Malleus. It's functionally very, very similar to the Razorback for the Space Marines. But the thing is that aside from that Heavy Bolter upgrade, you also get that guy on top with that pintle-mounted Storm Bolter. The Storm Bolter by itself does 25 DPS. The Heavy Bolter does 55. So that's a total of 80 DPS on this vehicle, whereas a Razorback is capped at 55. And even the 55 on the Razorback is good. So the fact that you get a fat 80 on this Rhino is very, very powerful. Second one, also going to be a Heavy Bolter. Not at all surprising. And this is a particular matchup where I think this can be highly effective because of the fact that the Tyranids do not actually have a Tier 2 vehicle. The closest thing they have is the Tyrant Guard, but the Tyrant Guard does not have vehicle armor. Nevertheless, the map is looking very, very red at the moment in favor of the Tyranids, and these, as good as this build is, I'm a little concerned about how deep they are going. I think they could finish off the Lictor Alpha here, but they're choosing not to. Yeah, it's definitely a much better prize to focus on the Generator farm rather than the Lictor Alpha. It does look like there is an attempt to put pressure on the Generators by the Tyranids in response, though. We are going to see Banishment go out on the Hormigons, so that will force the Hormigons out off the field. Strike Squad also getting dangerously low in that engagement. Brother Captain will be upgraded with the Blessed Aegis. That's going to give him an energy shield with a 3.5 to 1 energy to, or damage to energy ratio. Okay, and we are going to see the Rhinos trying to get out of here. They will just kind of kite back doing that damage. They are at an angle where the pintle-mounted Storm Bolter model on the front is not able to shoot, so that Storm Bolter on the front not really getting full value unless your unless your Rhino is facing forward. All right, Heavy Bolter's continuing to just pepper in damage from afar. Inekura only with the double. Only with the double Rhino, though. Ooh, what is this going to be? I feel like one of these is going to be a Venom Brood. Try to put some pressure on the... Wait a minute. They don't need... Do they have access? Oh, yeah, they do. Yeah, it's a double Venom Brood. Oh, my God. They might take out the Rhino right there. He's not microing. Okay, Sanctuary might have just barely saved it with one of those Venom Broods getting knocked over from that Terminator Librarian right here. So Terminator Librarian as well as the Brother Captain moving in. Nemesis Force, however, this is going to be a lot of power melee damage out of Revs. So if these two units are targeting any of the Warriors as well as the Venom Brood, they're going to pop those models pretty quickly, trigger those Synapse backlashes, and... Oh, Lindonin, meanwhile, just going with the triple Ravener, really ranged heavy build, overwhelming range damage. I mean, look at just how quickly, with just we can see the volley-based fire out of the Raveners, and we see just how much damage they do to those generators. The Rhinos really just kind of running around, doing a lot of damage. Going to be focusing on the generators now. And interestingly, we see the purifiers out of Sergeant Smith, and I'm always find it peculiar when I see purifiers. They are, in my opinion, probably the least common Tier 2 purchase, and I think there are very good reasons for that. They do have some functional overlap with both Interceptors and Strike Squad. Oh no, why are these Inquisitorial Stormtroopers not inside the Rhino? Alright, they do get in. Meanwhile, that's one ISD squad nearly getting wiped. Venom Brood looking to put some damage onto this Rhino, but it's just going to keep on kiting back. And we do have a squad of Interceptors that could also deal with the Venom Brood. And it's actually the Everstar Assassin. He throws a Chem Cloud grenade. Most of it actually does not connect. He's also got the Neuro Gauntlet. Can't do special attacks with this, but it's 80 power melee DPS. So it's certainly a lot of damage. Sergeant Smith looks like he's struggling a little bit. Yeah, the Purifier is kind of struggling to find value, it seems. I'm not a fan of the Purifiers. Again, functionally, they overlap with Strike Squads and Interceptors, and by Tier 2, you're likely to have at least one of those, if not one of each, or two of Strike Squad. They're a squad, so they are going to bleed, whereas all of the other choices in Tier 2 for the Ordo Malleus do not bleed. You either have the single entity subcommanders in the Vindicare or the Terminator Librarian, or you've got your vehicles in the form of the Rhino or the Grey Knight Dreadnought. This is very interesting. We are going to see Libra Demonica granting the Might of Titan to strengthen nearby allies. That is that purple ring effect that we see. It's a sloppy fight, but oh my god, look at all the damage coming out of the Rhino as well as the Plasma Inquisitorial Stormtroopers. They, however, will be getting shot at on their flank by the Venom Brood. That is going to be Electroshock Grub on the Rhino. Rhino is now in a lot of trouble. We need, oh no, I was going to say we need some Stormtroopers to come out and repair, but those Stormtroopers would also probably be in trouble, so that is going to be a dead Rhino. Because as soon as those Stormtroopers are going to get out, they would just get engaged on by the Hive Tyrant, as well as just other units nearby. This Rhino now in quite a bit of trouble, but I think it will make it out alive. It's pretty close. It doesn't. It was just too far into the range of the Venom Brood that it couldn't drive away fast enough from the Venom Brood, which was able to just continue to take shots as the Rhino exposed its rear armor to it. So both Rhinos down for Inekura, and things are looking quite a bit tricky now. Sergeant Smith actually doubling down on his Purifier build. Now, at the very least, with the Chem Cloud grenade, I think if you can get an initiation with the Chem Cloud grenade, that can make things a little bit more feasible for the Purifiers, mostly because of the 50% less damage effect. Again, this Chem Cloud grenade literally has about 4 or 5 different effects, and I think the one that is most important to the Purifiers engaging in a fight would be making your opponents do 50% less damage so that those Purifiers can last a lot longer in there, make it less likely that they will bleed models. Chem Cloud grenade. Let's also just read off what else does it do. They lose the ability to regen health. They have their melee skill reduced by 10, and then what's actually suppresses as well. So four effects that it has. This is going to be a retreating Everstar Assassin. I'm not even sure what he's looking for. I was wondering if he was trying to find like a Chem Cloud grenade toss. And he is just going to be taken out there. Flesh Hook finishes him off in retreat. So one engagement for the Ordo Malleus. This time it's the Ordo Malleus who are behind in victory points in the early and mid game.
Are we to accept defeat?
Purifier is going to take out this capillary tower. But we also have another deadly jump, Lictor Alpha. This one from Razihel. I forget if he was the one with deadly jump last game. Fully upgraded Lictor Alpha. Corrosive Claws this time. It increases the amount of damage that enemy units take. Oh no, this Vindicare Assassin is gone. I'm pretty sure it's going to be amazing if he survives. One more hit would have confirmed it. Even a little bit of range fire, but there are no ranged units here. No, just kidding. There are Raveners. If they had just gotten a volley off on the Vindicare Assassin, they would have finished him off. But they're all just actually being ripped apart here, and the Purifiers are starting to get some value here, finding good fights, finding, just matchups that favor them, and they also have the support of the Interceptors as well. So, the two of them combined is pretty scary. That also really helps with the Purifiers, not the Purifiers. The Interceptors are the ones who get the initial initiation, and that allows them to, shut down the range damage out of the ranged units from the Tyranids. They get the knockdown, makes it easier for the Purifiers to get in as well. Purifiers now also getting a little bit overwhelmed. They're the ones being focused. Also, where's the second squad of Purifiers? They're in base. Meanwhile, back here, we have a strike squad getting real low, so they will be retreating. Bunch of Ravagers for Lindonin retreating as well. Double cap for the Ordo Malleus, but they've got so many more victory points to make up at this time. This brother captain has the Nemesis Warding Staff. So interesting to see that from Inekura. So he'll use it on himself. I mean, certainly one way you could use it. I think it would probably get a little bit more value if you used it on a squad. Ironically, this is also one of the few times when I'd say maybe Purifiers. I think the Ward and Purifier not Purifiers. No, yes, Purifiers. Ward and Purifier combination, I think that's a valid thing. Probably even better in Tier 3, though, when you can use it on Terminators or Paladins. Okay, it's going to be a chaotic fight right here. We're hearing lots of plasma sounds, and those are the overcharged plasmas out of Inekura's Stormtroopers. And here is an orbital. Let's see if it catches anything. The indicator is practically on the building here. Oh, no. This orbital is going to be one big goose egg. Does not connect with anything. 1-to-1 cap at the moment, but the Tyranids are going to retake the contested victory point. Ward. Oh, no, different brother captain. So it's Inekura with the Nemesis Warding Staff. Revs has the Force Halberd and the Blessed Aegis. How about Sergeant Smith? Actually, we've seen his war gears. He has the Assault Armor this time instead of the Sin Skin Body Glove, granting him that charge ability. Does make him disruptive, also allows him to gap close, much in the way that a Hive Tyrant could. Hive Tyrant himself here has a few upgrades. Psychic Stream, units around him do 30% less damage, as well as the improved Synapse, increasing the health of nearby allied Tyranids. And then just Crushing Claws just for the raw damage. There's the Psychic Scream, but there's also a Sanctuary. Sanctuary preventing any of those units from getting into melee with the Strike Squad. Strike Squad, though, looking to get into melee anyway, walking out of the Sanctuary, and all the Tyranids actually going to be in retreat here. So that is currently a one fight for the Ordo Malleus, or is it? The fight's still going. We had some people retreat, but then there are more going in. We need some overcharged plasma shots to slow down this melee blob. And I can't even recall if that was a special. Now we're going to see Purgation purging them. Probably used Purge by Fire there. Couldn't actually see as things are getting very visually busy. Tyrannoformation. Ooh, this one I think is going to be a pretty low value Tyrannoformation. This one, Vindicator Assassin, still got a little bit close to dying that time. And he also does not have the extended operation, so only 350 hit points. Definitely out of the gate like that. He is, I'm pretty sure, the squishiest single entity in the game when he does not have extended operations. There is the Zoanthrope that actually only has 300 health baseline, but the Zoanthrope also has an energy shield, making it just a little bit less squishy. All right, this is going to be an isolated Carnifex. We do have the Paladins called in right here. Carnifex is being slowed by the Purgation Squad with the Conversion Beamer. Conversion Beamer now no longer is in range of the Carnifex, so the Carnifex is getting out of here. Only the Purifiers still chasing after it. Purifiers, they'll do some damage, but definitely not enough to realistically threaten the Carnifex that still has 900 health left. Carnifex is charging back in, wants this fight, because the rest of the Tyranids are engaging here. But the Purgation Squad has set up again. Purgation Squad has set up. Purgation Squad, it just needs to make sure it targets the Carnifex. Purgation Squad is targeting something else entirely. Meanwhile, that is Paroxysm out of the Neurothrope, doing percent damage to all of those Ordo Malleus units caught inside. Particularly good against any Terminator-type units. It's just absolutely chaotic at the moment. I can barely tell what's going on anymore. We do have a Vindicator Assassin just getting an Eversor Assassin who's looking pretty low. Hormigons might finish him off in retreat. Doesn't look like they're bothering. They might actually take more damage trying to kill him in retreat and proccing the death explosion. Also looks like, ooh, I think that was a conversion beamer. Yeah, conversion beamer purgation wiped. Don't recall whose conversion beamer purgation that was, but, you know, it's gone. Now it's nobody's. Some Tyranid units still out on the field. We're going to see the attempted double cap, but the paroxysm is here, doing just damage over time, percent-based damage. So that's why it might not look like it's actually doing that much. The cap is interrupted. They retreat. They don't even get the decap. All right, so what are these? These are some Inquisitorial Stormtroopers, looking so vanilla at the moment. No upgrade whatsoever, but nevertheless level 3. Harmagons, few hit points left. Do they make it out alive? 6-1, no. It's going to be a mostly full health Termagant brood, so they don't have to worry too much. Oh no, that hurts so much. Deadly jump, knocking them back, catching them right behind. But the Lictor Alpha, turns out he actually was kind of by himself. Did not have a whole lot of support. And much of the support that he had kind of got scared off by the Sanctuary from the Terminator Librarian. In fact, we've got 2 Terminator Librarians. No, just kidding. These are Paladins. We only got a single Terminator Librarian out of Revs. Inekura has also got an interesting upgrade, the Bulwark. This is the first time I've ever seen this taken in an actual game. Also a relatively new war gear, at least in the sense that when before 2020, when I was not playing this anymore, it hadn't existed. So Paladins right here. I believe that was Paladins. Paroxysm used once again. That's going to do a lot of damage to the Paladins. Paladins need to get out of here. Okay, I believe that was Ward put on them. So yeah, Ward. I like that use of Ward on the Paladins to just empower them more. Ward making them take 30% reduced damage. Neurothrope getting a little too close there to the Brother Captain. So yeah, that Bulwark, what does it actually do? Grants melee damage resistance and damage bonuses to a targeted ally. So you use it on a unit. Oh, actually, oh man, and if you so it's another way of empowering. It's actually very similar to the Nemesis Warding Staff. Another Tyranniformation, only catching the tail end of that. Not sure how much value that it got. Honestly, I'm going to guess not a whole lot. Okay, did hear the Brother Captain going down. Eversor Assassin also at risk of going down too, especially because he hasn't realized that he's in this position. He does go down. And, oh, this is looking rougher and rougher. That's a Paladin squad also going down. Yes, that was Revs Paladin squad. Completely gone now. That's going to make life quite a bit harder for them. Terminator Librarian in retreat. No attempt to try to finish him off. I think they realize it's just not going to happen. But they can get this Brother Captain, and that's not a bad pickup at this point in the game, with all 3 Ordo Malleus commanders dead on the ground, and Inekura actually being the one who is furthest away. So it should be a buyback, ideally from Inekura, and then maybe they can see about revives. But instead, Sergeant Smith is going to buy back first. I mean, it might also just have to be buybacks from all Ordo Malleus players, because they're running out of units. It might actually be hard to continue to win fights without their commanders. Yeah, it's probably going to have to be just buybacks from all Ordo Malleus players. Even with the buybacks, they're actually now in such a difficult position. We've got 2 Swarm Lords out on the way, a 2nd Carnifex from the Tenso, and the Ordo Malleus are running dry. I mean, again, if they're in a position where they're going to spend what little requisition they have, at least for Inekura, to buy back their commanders, it's going to be a little while before they can get something else out on the field. Revs, I imagine maybe he's going to be looking for like a Terminator purchase or something, mostly just because I feel like that's what he can even get at this point. There's Paroxysm kind of zoning the units for Revs out. He's actually going to go for the Land Raider Crusader. Land Raider Crusader certainly going to be great against all of the Tyranid infantry, but has to worry quite a bit more against the Carnifexes. So for the Tenso, if he does end up seeing the Land Raider Crusader before putting an upgrade on his 2nd Carnifex, it would be ideal for him to put a Venom Cannon on this one. Actually, yeah, and then the Swarm Lords, they might just have to really be aggressive here to put pressure on the Land Raider Crusader. I think it can work out well in the sense that they can just be really aggressive against the Land Raider Crusader, and the Land Raider Crusader will just have to move back. And then just with the space that the Tyranids can create, they can just kind of seal out the game from there. A conversion beamer targets the Carnifex. This Carnifex does not have, charge because it used it to go in. But here is a Swarm Lord, one of those Swarm Lords, but there is also an Interceptor Squad jumping in, teleporting in even. And the Conversion Beamer seemed to just be gone because the Lictor Alpha scared it off. And if the Conversion Beamer is gone, then there's very, very little threat against the Carnifex and the Swarm Lords. I mean, we've got a Carnifex right here. It's pretty low, but this is a completely one fight for the Tyranids. And with this triple cap, it's honestly looking to be game right here. Yeah. All Ordo Malleus commanders dead yet again. And it looks like it's also going to be a dead Paladin squad. There's the concede. Game number 2, also going in favor of the Tyranids. So Ordo Malleus has their back up against the walls now. Game number 3 will take place on Argus Desert Gate, one of the classic maps and most commonly played maps of yesteryear, and perhaps still today. But, you know, Catchment Purification Plant and Estia Province have kind of taken priority. VR is going to be stepping in this game. I already forget who he's replacing. I'm so sorry. It was Razihel. VR going to be playing as one of the Hive Tyrants. Lindonin also going to be sticking it to the Hive Tyrant this game, and the Tenso will reprise his role as the Lictor Alpha. Their opponents, it's going to be everybody from last game, but a few switches. Inekura, this time on the Eversor Assassins, who has played all 3 commanders so far. Revs going to be sticking to the Brother Captain, and Sergeant Smith will be yet another Eversor Assassin. Man, if I was mixing up Inekura and Sergeant Smith before, wait till we get into this game. Now that they're actually playing the same commander. Look at this sneaky Lictor Alpha. He's not moving at all. Will they bump into him? No. All right, he just reveals himself. He goes for it. That means Tyranid units from the other side should move in to provide support. Oh, nice special attack. Catches both the Stormtroopers as well as the Eversor Assassin. That also disrupts the cap on the point. I'm not sure if the Eversor Assassin wants to go for the cap at this point. I think he needs to fight it out and make something happen here. Nice special attack. Takes out half of the Termagant Brood's health. I mean, it must have just been that special attack connecting with every single model. And only now does he activate Psychon to get that extra damage. Again, giving up some of his health, but he does more damage. I believe he also gets a damage resistance, but you pay for it with some of your health. Where is he going now? He's just going on a solo mission. Lictor Alpha might just, like, pull him in. Might just be like, get over here. Where are you going? But let's take a look at this fight going down right here. This is going to be Sergeant Smith, not Inekura. Very, very early Chem Cloud grenade upgrade. Almost went for a throw there. Maybe should, because he's getting some support here. It's just such a nice, juicy blob. The throw goes a little wide. Does catch the Hormigons. Sergeant Smith still in here with the Eversor Assassin, chasing down the Hormigons, which are themselves chasing down the Inquisitorial Stormtroopers. So very consistently, we're seeing pretty melee-heavy builds, although this is probably the most ranged-heavy that our Tyranid players have gone so far in this series, with both VR as well as the Tenso now going for double Termagant builds, which is normally the team game standard. However, again, it does seem like perhaps just against Ordo Malleus, going for that early melee pressure might actually be quite effective. Hormigons getting very, very low. Going to be a dead Hormigon Brood, so that is VR losing a squad of Hormigons. Not quite sure what happened there. They really just got caught pretty far behind enemy lines. Were never even retreated as far as I can remember. Lictor Alpha going in pretty hard against the Brother Captain, but the Brother Captain gets a special attack. Knocks the Lictor Alpha over. We once again see the Toxin Miasma to reduce the damage. No, yes, this one is reduce the damage. I kind of sometimes mix this up with the Corrosive Claws. This is the one that reduces the damage of any units that it targets. Eversor Assassin looking for a final swing. See if he can kill the Lictor Alpha. I don't think he's going to get it. And the ranged weapon, not enough, especially without the Executioner pistol. There's going to be a nice throw of the Chem Cloud grenades, forcing the engage there by the Eversor Assassin on the Termagants. And that scares them out off the field. Eversor Assassin might want to move back up, though. He can't take the Hive Tyrant 1v1. Although he's completely ignoring him, kind of just taking advantage of his superior speed compared to the Hive Tyrant to not even fight him. Now with 4 ranged units here, this should be enough to kite the Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant can buy some time here. It could delay the generator bashing a little bit. Low health Strike Squad does not want to be in melee with the Hive Tyrant for an extended period of time, but we do see the Hive Tyrant is eventually being burned down here. Only one model knocked over by that special attack from the Hive Tyrant yet, and eventually the Hive Tyrant realizes it's got to go. It was never actually really a good fight for the Hive Tyrant. 4 ranged units here. They just split up, kite him, and he will eventually have to go. Looks like it's going to be Tyranids having to go here as well. Interceptors in retreat, looking for a kill, possibly on the Hive Tyrant, and they'll pick it up. However, that's not too hard of a revive position for the Tyranid teammates. They will only need to win a fight. It's actually not even halfway past the map. It's slightly less, just a little bit before the line of scrimmage on this map. So I talked about the Executioner pistol will be picked up by Inekura here. This is Inekura's, not Sergeant Smith's Eversor Assassin. And Inekura is being forced off the field. Contested victory point will be retaken by the Tyranids at the moment. The Tenso possibly looking for a little bit of a generator bash. The Lictor Alpha, you know, he's actually not going to do too bad with this weapon. Again, that's 65 melee DPS with the damage over time. Yeah, he's burning that generator down pretty quickly for, you know, a single entity. He's starting to get some support from the Termagants as well, and especially with the Raveners here, they're going to take down those generators pretty fast. They're going to get at least one more. Honestly, if not another one, because it does feel like Inekura is not quite ready yet to engage him. And now the Lictor Alpha is also getting ready to help win this fight. No detection for him. Yeah, no... Oh, man, I mean... Oh, God. What is Inekura doing? Inekura with the triple Strike Squad. Yeah, I don't know about that one. You know, with any luck for him, he can prove me wrong and make me shut up. But my prognosis right now, my outlook for him is not terribly positive, especially if he's going to lose one of them right now. Oh, God. But even if he doesn't lose the entire squad, I mean, that bleed, he lost 3 models there, 225 requisition to reinforce those 3 models. That's going to be rough for Inekura. I mean, is that a point where I think soon he can tech to tier 2? Oh, but he's going to have to pay models, and that's going to delay him teching to tier 2. No, he actually already had the reinforcements cost queued up, and actually he's fine. He'll tech to tier 2 pretty quickly. In the long run, though, I'm still worried about the bleed from that triple Strike Squad. Okay, but we are nevertheless going to see a generator bash from our Ordo Malleus player right here. Revs just meleeing down. It feels like the Strike Squad combined, the instant retreat. Oh, there's also a little bit of a flank here. Oh, yeah, and is this his? That is his. So Revs just lost the ISTs. He's going to find himself retreating through all this. With melee, force melee. Ooh, the retreat path was actually pretty good for Revs there. And I think because they decided to go through that gate instead of going straight through the bottom lane, I think that saved them from potentially losing a model there. Because I think this low health squad, I think there's a pretty decent chance if all those Tyranids were able to get some nice melee swings on this Strike Squad, they could have taken out at least 1 model, possibly even 2. Oh, this is a full generator bash every day of the week. Like, if this is not a full generator bash, then that would absolutely be ridiculous. Even with this coming in as a flank, and we've got so many more Tyranid units supporting, just needs, these Raveners just going to burn it down so fast. I mean, we've got triple Raveners from Lindonin. Raveners often one of the really oppressive things about Tyranids. Finish this. Don't make a liar out of me. Raveners, they're just starting range damage for a tier 1 squad, especially for a baseline squad with no upgrades, is so overwhelming. Really only matched by Shudas, and only when the Shudas have several upgrades. So they just melt that Eversor Assassin. This is a massively won fight for the Tyranids. And of course, you also have the fact that the Raveners are not that squishy. They're not that squishy. And especially because we also have some synapses. Yeah, the Hive Tyrant giving them that synapse actually increases their health a bit. And both Yang Wendy... This is not Yang Wendy. I'm bringing in totally different players here. Not even... The first I'm mixing up Inekura and Sergeant Smith, and now I'm calling someone a player that's literally not even in this game. Shoutouts to Yang Wendy, though. Apparently you're just on my mind, and I'm thinking about you. So we're actually going to see a Las Cannon Rhino this time, and it makes a lot of sense. This time, you know, instead of the Rhino being more of an attempt to just be oppressive with the Heavy Bolter Rhino, it's being purchased as partly a response to the Tyrant Guard. I mean, Triple Strike Squad just doesn't even seem entirely serious. I mean, I guess if you get the Triple Smite, should be able to wipe a squad like the Termagants. But we need to see that actually happen. Like, it needs to be now. Smite, smite, smite. Yeah, just like all over the place. All right, it's forcing off, and technically it's not smite. It's called Banishment. Should be a Dead Lictor Alpha. There it is. So we'll see how this works out in the long run. I think especially where this triple banishment falls off is when we get to the late game and the Tyranid players might even just be content to lose their Termagants and Hormagaunts and just replace it with Carnifexes. And banishment may be seen as pretty cheesy in this old patch that I'm still running here, but does not do a whole lot to Carnifexes. Las Cannon Rhino being used to retake the power node for the Ordo Malleus. Man, this Las Cannon Rhino, I mean, it's an anti-vehicle choice, but the weapon itself actually feels pretty underwhelming to me. Raveners jump in, or rather burrow in. Look at that knockback. They pretty much knocked over every Ordo Malleus squad, but the triple smite's going in, or the triple banishment. I actually don't know if that was all free, but banishment's going in, doing a lot of damage to the Tyranids. Okay, we're going to see some support, though. This is VR moving in all the way. I forget, I think VR is, he is all the way in the left lane. So this is a very hard lane switch, and possibly a triple once all Tyranid players get out of here. This is Lindonin moving in. Soon the Rhino might find itself in a compromising position. Probably wants to get back a little bit. Okay, actually it looks like all Venom Broods have been forced off, but this should be a Venom Brood call-in. Oh, and the Rhino has no health. Yeah, that was a compromising position, so goodbye to the Rhino. Okay, yeah, that's basically what Inekura is looking for with that triple strike squad. He decided to enjoy it while it lasted, because in the current version of Elite Mod, that ability has definitely been nerfed a bit. And again, once it gets to tier 3, if we start seeing the train of Carnifexes and eventually, of course, the Swarm Lords, that smite is not going to do a whole lot. What is Inekura doing? We have the quad. The quad. He's really just going all in on this just nuke squads things with the banishment. And I mean, we're getting so late into the game now. It'll nuke the infantry, but again, once the Carnifexes start coming out, it's not going to do a whole lot to them. I mean, I guess with the 4, like, whatever infantry blob he does point those things at, it really is going to nuke them. Especially if he can tag some of the Venom Brood or Warrior models with that. In fact, we don't actually have any. No, we do have one Warrior Brood. Only for VR. Was about to call him Yang Wendy again. I have no idea why. I think Yang Wendy plays Tyranids too. All right, we have a big offensive right here coming out of Ordo Malleus, but the defense from the Tyranids is quite strong. Brother Captain is up here up front. So are the Strike Squad, but they're looking to get pretty low. We're going to see some smites come out. But is it enough? Where are Inekuras? Inekura's not even here. I think it needs to be Inekura coming in to save the day from behind. Oh, but we're going to see some plasma overcharge from the ISTs. If they can get a nice plasma overcharge and then also let it rip with some of those smites from Inekura, that could be pretty effective. But it looks like it's a one fight for the Ordo Malleus anyway. Purifiers are in here, though, and they seem to just be running past the Hormigon Brood. I think it's actually time, focus on this Tyrant card. Purifier is going to put a lot of damage pressure on it. Shield Wall will eventually be forced. Okay, instead it's going to be Charge forced out. And that might actually buy the Tyrant card enough space that it can get out of there alive without having to resort to Shield Wall. Purifier's still going in, though. I think Shield Wall is going to have to come. Doesn't even bother. I'm not actually 100% sure he had the energy to pull off Shield Wall because he had just used it for the charge. Invulnerability used on the Stormtroopers right here. Technically, it's called Fanaticism. Unlocks when you get the Acolyte upgrade. The Acolyte Squad Leader. Should be a Dead Hive Tyrant. So Ordo Malleus looking to do things here. You know, I was kind of poking a little bit of fun at Inekura for this. But now that it's here, I want to see this actually doing things more. Oh god, Revs is trying to do the same thing. What is Inekura looking for now? He's just bashing the generators. I mean, I guess it's the power bash. I was also saying I wonder if they're just looking for red or something. Ooh, but this is actually looking pretty rough for Ordo Malleus players. I don't know. Ooh, what an explosion there from the Eversor Assassin. But that does also mean that now Inekura does not have a commander. Okay. Now I mean, Inekura is really memeing this game. Where now he has the Librarian. And this one actually has an ability called Smite, which is actually a little bit more powerful than Banishment, I'm pretty sure. Because, you know, it's a single entity. Here's more of that Smite, or rather, Banishment. And I think Inekura didn't even use all of them. I think he has a few more casts, but they're about to get engaged on. Can they get out of here and stay alive? We could have a Sanctuary out of the Terminator Librarian, as well as an actual Smite. There's the Sanctuary. And with that, Terminator Librarian is pretty low, though, and he actually just retreats out of there. I think he could have stayed a little bit longer. He never had a chance to use his own Smite. All right, the Hive Tyrant, though, not doing too well in this. Here are some Tyranids coming in from the flanks. And the Sanctuary has worn off, but the Hormigon's also taken so much damage. Here are the Tier 3 units coming out of the Tyranid players, though. Neurothrope as well as Carnifex, along with some Hormigons and Termagant replacements. I'm surprised VR is even bothering. Meanwhile, unfortunately for our Ordo Malleus players, this commitment to the memes, or rather this commitment to the cheese, perhaps that's more accurate, is leaving them in a position where they're not getting to Tier 3. Just going for this many strike squads, it's such a wreck-heavy build. The squads themselves cost so much requisition. The upkeep that Inekura has right now is absolutely massive. And, you know, when he loses models, that's a lot of requisition for reinforcements. And he manages to actually start Tier 3 anyway. But it definitely has, even though he's managed to start Tier 3, it's going to delay. It's definitely delayed him from getting there, because we see that our Tyranid players, they're already in Tier 3. They already have Tier 3 units out on the field in the case of VR and the Tenso. For the Emperor. No, that's not actually the For the Emperor Global, but it is a different buff that they are getting. Strike Squad, though, do decide to get out of there. It is possible that even one more shot, when they're not in their retreated form, from the Carnifex with this Barbed Strangler could have actually just sniped one of their models. Honestly, possibly even two. So they realized that that was the time to get out of there, not wanting to pay those reinforcement costs. Blessed Aegis and Nemesis Force Halberd don't walk into the Paroxysm. There goes some banishments, as well as actual Smite. Not getting the hugest amount of value there. I think that was good, just moving back from Lindonin. Really, only one of his squads kind of took the brunt of that, and then the other three are actually just fine. I'm actually surprised that he's kind of backing up. I feel like once all those abilities are on cooldown, I feel like that's the time to start shooting back. And okay, now they decide this is their moment. Here is going to be a Cataclysm out of the Neurothrope, knocking back all of those Ordo Malleus units. There is a Sanctuary right here. To me, this is looking good for the Tyranids, but there are actually more Ordo Malleus coming from the other side. They're standing in the Paroxysm, though. We have so many times when we're standing in the Paroxysm. It's going to be a Conversion Beamer, double Conversion Beamer. Can they even get some shots off? Okay, both of them took a shot at the Carnifex. Right now, the Conversion Beamer is currently uncontested, and that is going to be something. Big shot, though, from the Carnifex Barb Strangler on the Conversion Beamer. Conversion Beamer still taking shots. It's a pretty nice orbital this time, though. Going to be catching a few units. I think that should be a dead Termagant Brood. I think it was a Termagant Brood. All right, then. Oh, no. But now the Conversion Beamer's in a huge amount of trouble. One of them does not get out alive. That's pretty rough, considering how much Sergeant Smith and the Ordo Malleus are going to be relying on those Conversion Beamers to put some pressure on the Carnifex. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty rough with Inekura and Revs, again, committing to this Strike Squad shenanigans. They have pretty much no AV at all. So Sergeant Smith is literally all of their AV. And his AV is also getting killed because they are relatively squishy Purgation squads that are taking huge burst damage. That's going to be the Blade Flurry, I believe. Huge. A lot of burst damage coming out of the Carnifex with the Barb Strangler. That being said, VR, he's definitely has lost a lot of squads himself. But, I mean, who can blame him when you're dealing with all of these things right here? I think they have their energy ready. They can just nuke that. I'm pretty sure they can just nuke this Termagant Brood whenever they want. Whenever they want. But they're not going to bother. I'm pretty sure they did not have the ability on cooldown. They've all got full energy. And, I mean, it was going to be a lost fight for them in any case because they had to back up from all of these Carnifexes. But I'm pretty sure they could have just let the Banishment rip on the Termagant Brood and probably would have wiped the entire squad with 4 of those. Eversor Assassin gets pulled in. We've now seen the full range of Eversor Assassin weapons. He has the Eviscerator Axe this time. Grants the kill zone ability and 65 power melee DPS. Conversion Beamer taking more shots. But, yeah, just going to get tied up by the Lictor. A regular Lictor, not even a Lictor Alpha. I mean, especially, you got that Lictor in there, the Tier 3 Lictor. It's going to be incredibly hard for a setup team to do anything. Man, Banishment's going in, and Banishment's, I think, mostly missing here. Conversion Beamer still trying to get some shots off, but there is going to be the Barb Strangler shots that are just going to force it off the field. A little bit of misretreating here that's going to put it in even more trouble. Tyrannoformation also just breaking lines here in the back. And I think we're getting pretty close to the beginning of the end here. Unfortunately, this has, if anything, probably been the least even game out of the 3 of them. And part of it probably having to do with the Ordo Malleus players kind of going for the cheese. And, I mean, we saw what that cheese can do that one time that Inekura really just outright wiped a squad with this build. But we can see that in the long run, it wasn't actually that effective. And particularly, as I predicted, once it got to Tier 3, completely ineffective against this train of Carnifexes and Swarmlords. Like, Inekura, he literally can't fight. He literally can't fight VR. He literally can't fight his opponents. He can maybe nuke a squad if he just lets the abilities rip. But it's just not going to be enough against all these Carnifexes. And that should be our series concluding with a 3-0 sweep in favor of the Tyranids. Yeah, all these Carnifexes out on the field. They can't even just try to put the Brother Captain or some Paladins on the point. Brother Captain goes down, still doesn't even have an animation for when he gets killed like that after all these years. Victory point's ticking down pretty slowly because it's only a single cap. And now it's a no cap! Okay, now it's a single cap. And that is it. So, game number 3, that is it. And hope you enjoyed it. Ooh, I like this ending part with all of these Terminators managing to fire their weapons at the end. That looks nice. All right. Hope you enjoyed it, and have a good night.